You used to run without thinking, jump fences for fun, pull an all-nighter, and wake up ready for another day. There were no aches, no limits, just the easy arrogance of someone whose body would always obey. You never saw it coming. The moment when walking up a flight of stairs could leave you breathless, when a pulled muscle meant weeks of annoyance, not minutes. Maybe it started with a subtle graying at your temples, or the day you realized you needed to squint at your phone. Jeans that once hugged your waist, now a little too tight. A favorite jacket, worn thin at the elbows, feels like a relic from another lifetime. The smells, the sounds, the feeling of summer sweat and cold soda after a football match, all so vivid in memory, almost untouchable now. In photos, your younger self stares back with a face that looks both familiar and alien. You try on an old playlist, expecting the rush of energy, but now it's nostalgia, a sweet ache rather than a fire. It's not just that your body is changing, it's that, piece by piece, it feels like you're losing yourself. You start to wonder, if all you were lived in this flesh, who are you? When this body forgets how to be young. The world doesn't want to talk about this. Every ad, every scrolling feed, all whisper the same lie. Stay young, stay perfect. There's an entire industry dedicated to hiding time signatures, creams, surgeries, toxic positivity, all promising to bring back what you lost. But change is the only promise ever kept. One day you find yourself comparing aches with friends, sharing notes on which joints pop now and which exercises you had to quit. Even laughter becomes punctuated by a pinch of pain. Back in the analog age, getting older was a fact, not an enemy. You saw it in your parents, your teachers. There was a dignity to it, a certain respect for those who bore wrinkles and slowness like badges. Today, there's no room for fading, just endless highlight reels and before and after shots. The digital world offers 1,000 ways to pretend decline doesn't exist, but every mirror and every idle moment says otherwise. Your body goes from vessel of possibilities to a reminder of limitations. You start to hoard old photos, replay moments when you felt immortal, and wonder how so much could change and you're still you. Or are you? The paradox, in a world that sells eternal youth, the true rebellion is to accept loss, to make peace with what fades. But how? The night breathes a different kind of silence as you lie awake in bed, blankets tangled at your feet, your body shifting restlessly, seeking a comfort that once came naturally. The room around you is a landscape of memory and loss, framed photos on the dresser, catching the streetlight in faint silver glints, a stack of unread books on the bedside table. The old familiar silhouette of your partner, sound asleep, face turned toward the wall. Something changes quietly as the years pass. You become hyper-aware of the ticking of clocks, both on the wall and somewhere deeper in your chest. Each tick a tally, a subtle echo of things you used to do without hesitation. You flex your fingers beneath the sheet, testing their stubbornness, a reminder that even these small joints hold stories now, each ache the price of days lived and not always appreciated. Slipping from the bed before dawn, feet landing on the cool wooden floor, you feel the unevenness beneath your steps, a floorboard slightly raised, a creak you know by heart, as if the house itself has grown old beside you. You pause at the door, hand resting on the frame, gaze sweeping slowly over the room. There's a tenderness in how you study the way shadows stretch across the floor. The vague outline of that childhood blanket still draped over a chair, the faint perfume of last night's rain sneaking in through an open window. These details root you in place, a grounding sensory inventory that, for a heartbeat, anchors you against the drifting fear of loss. The hallway's familiar darkness is gentler than the pale blue shock of the bathroom light. You squint into the mirror, the glass foggy from your quiet breath, and for a moment, study the geography of your face, the small map of creases at the corner of your eyes, the skeptical tilt of your mouth, the silver that has gradually won the war against your old hair color. You do not flinch. You examine yourself not for vanity, but out of necessity, to account for who remains, to take honest stock. You find yourself mumbling silent facts. This is my face. These are my hands. They have cared, carried, worked, comforted, failed, and forgiven countless times. Who would I be without them? Can I learn to cherish what stays even as the flesh around it transforms? You finish the ritual of washing up in a kind of slow motion, feeling each movement like a negotiation with the morning. The towel is coarse, the toothpaste cool against your gums. In the reflection, you hold your own gaze, and behind it, 1,000 mornings just like this one flicker past. Child, athlete, young lover, parent, worker, all versions stitched together by the thread of simple continuation. Am I more than these forms I cycle through, you think? If so, what anchors me as time chips away at each one? In the kitchen, dawn cracks through the blinds, painting slats of gold across the countertop where coffee waits to be brewed. Your routine is the same as ever. Scoop, pour, wait for the bubbling promise of warmth. But you move differently now, slower, wincing at the mild protest of your back. Still, you find small pleasure in these moments. The way steam curls upward, the aroma dense as comfort itself, the first sip lighting embers you thought had gone out. You linger at the window, mug cupped in two hands, watching the girl in the house across the street hop into her mother's car, her small, impulsive jump a jarring reminder of the way you once moved. You recall suddenly racing your own bike down this very block, knees scraped and hair wild, invulnerable, eager for everything ahead. You smile and wince at once. That child is still in you somewhere, trapped behind 1,000 cautious habits, shielded by pain. You let yourself wander the house as if seeking proof that you belong here, that your story is still engraved in these rooms. Your fingers graze the hallway walls, over worn paint and hidden fingerprints from years of family, parties, heartbreaks, and holidays. You pause before each photograph. Graduation robe, summer beach trip, your child with gap-toothed grin, parents now gone. Their eyes look out from within the frame, unburdened by time, certain of tomorrows. You feel grief and gratitude twist together inside your chest. You think, if they could age and lose and still love, isn't that a kind of proof I can too? The dog finds you, tail thumping, old muzzle gray, eyes milky but trusting. You kneel, sore but gentle, and scratch behind the ears. The dog sighs, leans in, and you envy a little the simple wisdom of animals, the ease with which they accept change. You whisper, "We're both getting there, huh?" and laugh, a sound you barely recognize as your own, before rising, joints aching. You recall the words of Marcus Aurelius, "You exist only in what you do in this moment. What is lost can never be retrieved." What is still in your power is how you greet each moment. You make breakfast, the radio humming oldies that call up more ghosts of youth, a familiar chorus, a memory of hands linked at sunset during your first big heartbreak. Through the kitchen window, you watch your neighbor water her plants, her movements careful and deliberate, face tipped to the sky for warmth. There is grace in the way she moves, a choreography that you recognize as devotion to the present rather than resistance to the past. You realize you yearn for that skill, the ability to let go of who you were, to show up fully as who you are, right now, right here. The world, you sense, has always belonged to those willing to begin again. No matter how many false starts, no matter the diminishment, you dress slowly, fingers lingering on fabric, choosing comfort over show. You see your reflection one last time before leaving, not quite the hero of your youth, clothes cut a little looser, shoes chosen for support rather than appearance. Still, there is a dignity even in this, a self-respect born not of pride, but endurance. Outside, the sidewalk is cool and gritty, patched and cracked in places where roots have claimed victory over concrete. The air is humid, thick with the coming day. As you walk, you carry with you an inner monologue, equal parts encouragement and lament. Thoughts flicker. Will the world see only my age, my slowness? You pass a group of young men, their laughter bright and careless, and you remember being among them years ago, sure that you would always outrun time. Then, a surprising gratitude. You listen to the birds, note the way sunlight sharpens everything, and say to yourself quietly, slow does not mean less. Slow means I see what's been missing. You reach the park, find a bench beneath an old oak tree whose roots twist monstrously above ground, stubbornly alive. Seated, you watch parents with children, joggers in new shoes, an elderly couple walking arm in arm, smiling at something only they understand. Here in this space you feel small, but in a way that comforts, not frightens. The world continues with or without your vigor. You close your eyes, feel the cool breeze drift across your face, and let yourself settle into the gentle hum of all things living and aging together. Every breath feels less like a battle and more like an offering to the self within who has survived, adapted, grieved, and loved despite everything that has been lost. Your mind wanders through decades. That summer you learned to swim, when you first realized your body was capable, responsive, a miracle you could trust. The first time you failed to heal quickly, when injury lingered and fear crept in. You remember your parents worrying about you, a sprained ankle, a high fever, but you never considered what it was like for them to face their own decay. Now you know. Now you feel their presence in how you rub your knee, in how you sigh at the headlines, in the bittersweet taste of nostalgia. Every generation repeats the same hope. Just let me keep what I have a little longer. But you notice, too, the beauty in surrender. The letting go is where time becomes a friend instead of a thief. You learn acceptance not in big moments, but in the details, relishing the taste of food you now savor slowly, feeling a favorite song vibrate through your chest, forgiving yourself for naps that come in the afternoon sun. Even pain becomes a kind of teacher, calling you to present awareness. In discomfort, your mind turns to reflection, to gratitude for what still works, what is still possible. You see that presence requires loss. You simply cannot hoard everything as you once wanted. You experience moments when despair lurks, urging you to rage against decline. On days when pain or fatigue close in, you remember the glittering illusion of youth, the careless laughter, the hungry drive for more speed, more beauty, more applause, Now, there's a different sort of hunger, slower, quieter, honest, to matter, to belong, to live a day with meaning untethered from appearance or achievement. You hold in mind the lessons of the Stoics, whispered through history, that courage is not in never falling, but in the willingness to get up again and again, no matter how slowly. Evenings bring a hush to the world, golden light filtering through windows. You light a candle on the kitchen table, the flame unsteady but defiant, and eat dinner with your partner, sharing news, swapping small irritations and joys. Your hands meet over the table, skin thinner now, veins pronounced, but the warmth unchanged. In these moments, love feels undiminished, stripped of youthful urgency but deeper in its intention. The phone buzzes with distant news, reminders that time moves for everyone, and you cherish the ordinary intimacy. You look across the table and realize, I am still worthy of affection, connection, laughter, even as the scaffolding of youth crumbles. Before bed, you walk the house one last time, turning off lights, closing curtains, feeling at home in your own quiet company. In the study, you linger over old journals, flipping pages, reading your own words from years past, ambitions, frustrations, joys, fears, repeated and re-examined. You notice that the questions have changed more than the answers. Meaning was always there, only hidden beneath striving. You let that recognition settle into your bones, a consolation, unexpected but necessary. In this self-dialogue, in this nightly reckoning, you relearn your own worth. As you slip beneath the covers and night folds you into darkness, you carry with you new understanding. Aging is not a thief or disease, but a transformation. What is lost returns in other forms: perspective, humility, gentleness, and the permission to just be. Lying awake, your body heavy but your mind lighter than it has been in years, you offer silent thanks, not in the language of the young, but in the quiet vocabulary of survival. I am still here, still feeling, still loving, still me. You close your eyes, the window cracked to hear the wind and the occasional distant train, the world moving on. It no longer feels like loss, but like invitation to inhabit yourself fully, to be present for whatever tomorrow brings, knowing that who you are has always reached further than muscle or memory. You drift towards sleep, finally at peace with the only certainty. The self that endures is the one that observes, adapts, and accepts its own impermanence with grace. Evening settles with slow confidence across your living room. The sun bruises the horizon in bands of fading gold, and you sit, body heavy but heart strangely expectant, in your favorite armchair, the one you bought years ago when comfort began to matter more than style. Around you the room is familiar, but changed by light and memory. The soft blue scatter of shadows behind bookshelves, the dull gleam of wood floor partially veiled by the faded rug, photographs glinting from their frames across the far wall. Outside, children's laughter skips down the block, blending with the distant hum of a neighbor's radio playing a half-forgotten tune. You remember dancing to that same song once, feet nimble, body unself-conscious, a whole evening ahead of you. Now, dusk arrives as an invitation to pause. No plans, nowhere to be, but here. You glance at your hands, lying open in your lap, tracing the small map of veins and scars, remembering each as a chapter, the burn from a too-hot skillet, the faint line scored by your daughter's toothy enthusiasm when she was learning to crawl. For a breath, regret stirs. Why didn't you savor more? Why did you believe routine was endless? But you catch yourself, letting nostalgia flow through rather than drown you. You realize that loss isn't a final verdict, but a space newly carved inside you, waiting to be filled with something quieter, deeper. Your partner enters, sets a cup of tea on the side table. The way she moves, cautious grace, the slight wince as she lowers herself onto the arm of your chair, reminds you that the language of aging is universal. You look at her, not as the girl you first loved, but as the woman who has chosen you every day since. Both of you changed in body, but not in presence. She squeezes your shoulder, eyes meeting yours with tenderness, forged through loss, shared worry, accumulated kindness. Neither of you speaks. You don't need to. It's enough to exist side by side, to witness each other's persistence. In this moment, you take stock of what you've gained and all you've lost. The pace of life, once frantic and noisy, now allows you to notice details. The pattern of rain sliding down the window, the warmth of the mug in your hands, the creak of the armchair as you shift your weight, searching for that sweet, aching spot of comfort. You sense new dimensions of gratitude forming, no longer shouted, but whispered in the rituals you now find holy. The sigh of the dog curled at your feet, the crispness of sheets freshly laundered, the echo of your own breathing against the hush of evening. You feel your relationship with fear morphing from avoidance to observation. Where anxiety once lurked, about being left behind, about mattering less, about the body's betrayals, you now notice space to breathe. The internal monologue changes. Instead of thinking, I am vanishing, you wonder, what is taking shape in the silence? You respond to yourself with increasing patience. Maybe I'm learning to be at home within these limitations. Maybe there's wisdom in slowing down, in listening inward as much as reaching outward. The urge to compare fades. You care less about others' highlight reels, less about where you are in any invisible race. As darkness gathers, lamp switched on, gold spilling across familiar stacks of books, you realize how relationships have subtly deepened. With friends, with siblings, with your child who now moves through adulthood with their own uncertain gait. Where connection was once built on activity, now it blooms in shared presence, in honest conversation, in the willingness to reveal vulnerability rather than accomplishments. You think, the best gift I offer is attention, no phone buzzing, no rehearsed advice, just the courage to sit with someone's sadness or let them hold mine without shame. Later, as you look through an old album, photos loose and creased, some corners missing, you hear your own voice change, softer, less urgent. You whisper thanks to each version of yourself, the daredevil, the caretaker, the silent one, the survivor. You accept their mistakes as lessons, not debts. Even regret seems less sharp. It lives side by side with acceptance. An old friend you now understand was always rooting for your forgiveness. You sense a gentle pride gathering in your chest. Not the pride of having conquered time, but the peace of having remained. Imperfect, aging, awake. Lying in bed, the house whispering around you, the world feels fuller. Not because everything is still possible, but because you've chosen to honor what remains. You tell yourself, I am more than my losses. My life is not measured by my capacity to impress or conquer, but by the simple acts of love, curiosity, and presence I continue to offer every day. I have learned to savor. I have learned to endure. I have learned to meet myself, Not as I wished I could be, but as I am, with everything stripped away except what truly matters. You exhale deeply and find, for the first time in years, that letting go does not mean emptiness, but space for new meaning, waiting in the dark, ready for tomorrow. Night arrives softly, stealthily, settling over the house like a second skin. The street outside is hushed. The amber glow of the lamplight filtered through curtains casting gentle patterns across the bedroom wall. You sit on the edge of the bed, elbows on knees, feeling the familiar weight of your own body and the strange lightness inside your chest. The air is cool, touched with the scent of rain left behind earlier, drifting in through a cracked open window. You listen, first to the quiet hum of appliances, the distant rush of tires on wet asphalt, and then to your own breathing, steady, reluctant, alive. Your hands rub together, slow, thoughtful. The pads of your thumbs mapping new ridges and valleys as if searching for proof. Yes, you're still here, changed and changing but not erased. You wonder if meaning, after all these years, lies simply in continuing to bear witness. You ask yourself, in the dark, when so much vanishes, speed, certainty, the long-held rituals of youth, how does one keep holding on? Is there power in acceptance or only surrender? You remember days when you fought every change, met each new pain or limit with resistance, quietly bargaining with time itself. Give me one more year, you used to think. One more chance to run as I did before, to look in the mirror and see the person I remember. But now, listening to the late night city, feeling the subtle ache in your back, you sense that struggle falling away. Peace is not triumph. It is release. You picture your life as a house you've built room by room, experience by experience. Some doors are now closed. Some rooms echo with emptiness, but the foundations remain. Tenderness for yourself, gratitude for those who stayed, awareness of the small wonders that survived loss. Your partner's breathing is steady in the next room, reassuring. You think of all you've lost: summer strength, flawless skin, the easy delusion of endless time, and realize you have also gained an ability to notice. There is a beauty in slowing down, in the clarity that arrives only when the world is quiet and the pose is gone. You say to yourself, not in bravado, but with honest humility, I am still me, even as everything changes. I am not defeated. I am revealed. The lamp on the nightstand pools golden light, warming the spines of books you once devoured, the photograph of your family, the watch that belonged to your father. You let the silence stretch. The inner voice feels less frantic, less desperate. It sounds more like a friend. In this moment, you dare to believe that letting go does not mean emptying out, but making space. Space for new beginnings, for forgiveness, for small joys still waiting to be noticed. You slip beneath the covers, feeling the day dissolve into memory. The storm outside grows soft, the busy world finally distant. Closing your eyes, you whisper thanks for the heart still beating, the mind still seeking, the spirit still returning to itself, no matter how much is asked to yield. Tonight, acceptance is not an end, but a beginning, a quiet trust that what's left of you, after all the loss, is more than enough. And as sleep finally claims you, you hold the truth close. This is not defeat, but a gentle kind of victory. You remain. You belong. Still here. Still you.